Indonesia is a very large country. It's made up of thousands of islands. Actually, more than 17,000 islands stretch across the equator. This unique geography has always played a really important role. Indonesia sits between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and this location made it a natural meeting point for people from different parts of the world. For centuries, ships sailing between India and China had to pass through its waters. This strategic position along ancient maritime routes really defined its destiny, turning the archipelago into a vibrant center for trade, cultural exchange, and political power. The seas weren't barriers at all. They were highways connecting diverse communities and ideas. The fertile volcanic soil and tropical climate allowed early societies to flourish. They could grow many crops, especially valuable spices like cloves and nutmeg. These spices only grew in specific parts of the archipelago, making them highly sought after in distant lands. Early inhabitants learned to navigate the seas, becoming skilled sailors and traders. They built strong communities based on agriculture and maritime trade, and this economic foundation supported the rise of complex societies and powerful kingdoms. Their success was built upon the natural wealth of the land and their mastery of the surrounding seas, which brought them both prosperity and contact with the outside world. One of the earliest and most powerful kingdoms was Srivijaya. It was based on the island of Sumatra and emerged around the 7th century. Srivijaya wasn't a land-based empire, but a maritime one. It controlled the vital Strait of Malacca, a narrow waterway that was the main passage for ships traveling between India and China. By controlling this strait, Srivijaya became incredibly wealthy and influential. It taxed the countless ships that passed through its domain, building its power on trade rather than territory. Srivijaya also became a major center for Buddhist learning, attracting scholars and pilgrims from across Asia. Later, another great kingdom rose to prominence, the Majapahit Empire. Centered on the island of Java, Majapahit reached its peak in the 14th century under the leadership of its prime minister, Gajah Mada. Unlike Srivijaya, Majapahit's power came from both a strong agricultural base and control over sea trade routes. It extended its influence over much of what is now modern Indonesia and parts of the Malay Peninsula. The legacy of Majapahit is still celebrated in Indonesia today. It's remembered as a golden age of unity and cultural achievement, a time when the archipelago was united under a single, powerful indigenous rule. The busy trade routes brought more than just goods to Indonesia. They also brought new ideas, new philosophies, and new religions. Traders from India were among the earliest visitors, introducing Hinduism and Buddhism to the local rulers and populations. These new beliefs blended with existing local traditions, creating unique forms of religious practice. Grand temples like Borobudur, a massive Buddhist monument, and Prambanan, a stunning Hindu temple complex, were built in Java during this period. These structures still stand today as magnificent testaments to the deep cultural and religious connections that flourished between the archipelago and the Indian subcontinent, shaping the spiritual landscape for centuries. After the arrival of Indian religions, traders from the Middle East and Gujarat in India brought Islam. Starting in the 13th century, Islam began to spread, first in the port cities of Sumatra and then across the archipelago. It was often adopted peacefully by local rulers who saw political and economic advantages in joining the wider Islamic trading network. Over time, Islam became the dominant religion in most of the islands, but it didn't erase the past. Instead, it mixed with the Hindu, Buddhist, and animist beliefs that were already there. This created a version of Islam that is unique to Indonesia, reflecting the region's long history of cultural synthesis. In the early 16th century, a new group of traders arrived, the Europeans. They were drawn by the immense wealth of the spice trade. First came the Portuguese, who captured the important trading port of Malacca in 1511. However, it was the Dutch who would have the most lasting impact. In 1602, they formed the Dutch East India Company, known as the VOC. This powerful company was given a monopoly on trade and the authority to build forts, sign treaties, and wage war. The VOC used its military power to gain control over the spice-producing islands, slowly pushing out its European rivals and local rulers. The VOC's goal was simple: to control the spice trade and make as much money as possible. It established a brutal system of control, forcing local farmers to grow crops for the company at fixed, low prices. This system brought great wealth to the Netherlands but caused immense suffering for the Indonesian people. After the VOC went bankrupt at the end of the 18th century, its territories were taken over by the Dutch government. This marked the beginning of direct colonial rule. The Dutch created a colony called the Dutch East Indies, governing the vast archipelago for their own economic benefit for the next 150 years. The long period of Dutch rule created a growing sense of a shared identity among the diverse peoples of the archipelago. They were united by their common experience of being colonized. In the early 20th century, a nationalist movement began to emerge. Educated Indonesians started to think about a future free from foreign control. They formed political parties and organizations to push for change. Leaders like Soekarno and Hatta became prominent voices, arguing for self-determination. They dreamed of a modern, independent nation called Indonesia, uniting all the islands of the Dutch East Indies under one flag and one government. The course of history changed dramatically during World War II. In 1942, the Japanese army invaded and occupied the Dutch East Indies. The Dutch colonial administration collapsed quickly. For many Indonesians, the Japanese victory shattered the myth of European superiority. The Japanese promoted an Asia for the Asians narrative, and to gain local support, encouraged nationalist sentiments and even provided some military training to Indonesian youth. However, the Japanese occupation was harsh and brutal. Millions of Indonesians suffered from forced labor and starvation, which only strengthened their desire for true independence. The end of World War II provided the perfect opportunity. Japan surrendered to the Allies in August 1945, creating a power vacuum in the archipelago. The Dutch were not yet able to return, and the Japanese were defeated. Seizing this moment, on August 17, 1945, Soekarno and Hatta declared Indonesia's independence in Jakarta. This declaration was a brave and defiant act. It marked the birth of the Republic of Indonesia. The news spread quickly across the islands, inspiring people to rally behind the new republic and its red and white flag, a symbol of their newfound freedom and sovereignty. Independence was declared, but it was not yet won. The Dutch returned, determined to reclaim their valuable colony. What followed was a difficult and bloody 4-year struggle known as the Indonesian National Revolution. Indonesians fought against the Dutch forces using both military and diplomatic means. The revolutionary spirit was strong, and people from all walks of life joined the fight for freedom. The international community, including the United States and the United Nations, eventually put pressure on the Netherlands. Finally, in late 1949, the Dutch formally recognized Indonesia's independence, ending centuries of colonial rule. The early years of independence were challenging for the new nation. The first president, Soekarno, worked to unite the country under his guided democracy system. However, political instability and economic problems led to a period of turmoil. In 1965, a complex and violent series of events led to the rise of General Suharto. Suharto established a strong, centralized government called the New Order. For over 3 decades, his authoritarian rule brought political stability and significant economic development. The economy grew rapidly and living standards improved for many people. But this progress came at a high cost. Political freedoms were suppressed, and corruption was widespread. The Asian financial crisis of 1997 hit Indonesia very hard. The economic collapse led to massive public protests and widespread unrest. People demanded political change and an end to authoritarian rule. In 1998, President Suharto was forced to resign. This moment marked the beginning of a new era for Indonesia, known as the Reformasi period. The country embarked on a remarkable transition to democracy. It successfully held free and fair elections, decentralized power to local regions, and established a more open and free press. This journey has transformed Indonesia into one of the world's largest and most vibrant democracies. Today, Indonesia is a major player in both regional and global affairs. It is the largest economy in Southeast Asia and a member of the G20 group of major economies. As a founding member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, Indonesia plays a key role in promoting peace, stability, and cooperation in the region. Its large population, strategic location, and growing economic power give it a significant voice on the world stage. The country continues to navigate challenges such as inequality and environmental protection, but its influence and importance in international politics are undeniable. From ancient kingdoms and spice-rich trade routes to a long struggle for freedom and the creation of a modern democratic state, Indonesia's history is a story of resilience and transformation. Its journey reflects its unique geography as an archipelago at the crossroads of civilizations. The nation's motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, or unity and diversity, perfectly captures its essence, a country of many different cultures, languages, and religions united as one nation. As Indonesia continues to grow and evolve in the 21st century, its rich history provides a strong foundation for its future, standing as a significant power in Asia and the world.